Okay, hello, my name's Kwell and this is for daily Star Wars collecting. So my channel's MKM Films 2009 and I'm going to answer some questions. So first question is, how long have you been collecting? Well, I started collecting around 93. I kept my vintage collection under my bed, so I'm of that generation that collected, well, I had the toys back in the 70s and 80s, and I never chucked them away. I kept them under my bed. And then in 93, I went to Forbidden Planet in London, and I saw some vintage Star Wars figures, especially a Princess Leia, and I just got hooked and started collecting then, 93, 94. In those days, there was quite a lot of um, conventions you could go to, a lot less now in London. So in those days you could go and buy stuff, and the stuff was pretty cheap. So I managed to get quite a large collection then. Okay, so next question, number two, is what is your first collecting memory? Well, I guess if you asked what's my first figure I ever got, that would have been a Han Solo small head on a Palitoy card back in 1978, and I remember from that I was amazed how small the figures were. Before that we had much larger figures, and so then I guess, in the 93 when I was in Forbidden Planet and saw that Princess Leia, I couldn't believe how much they were asking for it. They were asking for £180 back then, and I was pretty shocked by that. It was a Star Wars 12 back, and so I got a Princess Leia pretty soon after that. Okay, so what is your favourite item in your collection? Well, there's lots of things I've got. Out of all the stuff I've got, the vintage carded action figures are my favourite, and I've got some nice rare things. I like foreign figures as well, so I try and get as much as I can that's not too overpriced. And I've got, as you can see on my channel, a Gamorrean Guard on a Empire Strikes Back card, which is a sample figure, and more recently I've got a Canadian Luke X-Wing on a transition card, and then I'd say my Han Solos. I've got quite a few carded Han Solos, vintage ones, and I really like them. A few Princess Leias, the Princess Leia on Meccano, that's very nice. That leads on to the next question, which is, what is your most valuable rare item in your collection? Well, I guess the Canadian Luke transition. I've just got also recently a couple of Revenge of the Jedi proof cards, a Bosk and a Luke Hoth. They're pretty valuable. And then I've got the Tri-Logo Hammerhead, which is quite rare. I got that a long time ago, before it was really became valuable. So those items, plus many other things I have, especially the foreign vintage cards, I really like them, like German cards, Dutch cards, Palitoy, of course. Palitoy in this country is very popular. Next question, number 5, is why do you collect Star Wars merchandise instead of other things? Well, because when back in 78 I never wanted to go see Star Wars, but my uncle said it had a dinosaur in it, so I went and was just hooked, and we had to wait a while for the Star Wars figures to come out, and when they did, they were my favourite toys as a kid, and I just had a lot of fun playing with those little bits of plastic. You had to use your imagination, and I think maybe there's a certain nostalgia looking back to childhood times, that you just want those times when life was so much more, all you had to worry about was what you did with your free time, really, rather than when you're an adult and you've got all the sort of burdens of adult life, which is stuff like mortgage, keeping a job, and all the economic woes that we're living in with the moment. Okay, next question, number 6, says, do you collect other things? Well, not really. I've got a few Star Trek. Oops, dare I say Star Trek? Well, I have. I've got a few Star Trek figures, not many, but I've got the best of them would be the German boxed Playmates figures. Uh, Number 7, is it just for fun or is it an investment? You tell yourself it's an investment, but you do it for the nostalgia, for having those items carded and unopened, and because they just look great. I mean, the vintage Star Wars figures just look amazing. So, you know, and that's proved by the fact that in 2010, 2011, and slightly earlier as well, that modern figures have been placed on such cards. Even now, people that weren't around in the 70s can buy these cards with modern figures, and it's because of the sort of the visual perfection that these cards are that people want to collect them, because having a large photo and the Star Wars logo and the Kenner logo or Palitoy logo, whatever, it just brings back all the memories for people of my generation. And even if you weren't born then, youngsters still give their thumbs up for these vintage looking cards. That's why the 2010 2011 vintage line has been so successful. If you could have any Star Wars related collectible, what would it be? Well, there's quite a few things. I mean, you could say the vinyl cake Jawa, the carded telescoping Vader, Luke and Ben. I mean, they're probably the most valuable figures. Totoy's carded figure, because Totoy's is Australian and that just never appears in England. I managed this year to get just a card back from 1980s Empire Strikes Back Totoy's card, and that's about as much success as I've had there. Okay, question 9 says, do you have any advice for collectors just starting out on carded figures? Well, I'd just say choose what you like. There's just so much stuff that it's really hard just to know where to begin. If you're going to start with the vintage figures, there's still bargains to be had, but with vintage figures, most dealers now know that the numbers out there are limited, so they tend to be a bit pricey, especially with AFA now. That sort of makes things a lot more pricey as well. If you're going to collect modern stuff, then you just got to know where to begin. You've got Power of the Force, you've got Saga Blue, you've got Saga to OTC, then you've got so many things to collect. TAC 30th anniversary collection. So just choose what you like. Maybe just stick to a few certain characters. Like I've focused at times on Princess Leia and on Han Solo, the original Luke as well, the Farm Boy Luke. Any of those 12 back figures I really go for. So you just go collect what you like, really, and obviously you're going to be limited by your budget. So that's my advice for you, is just to stick to what you like. You're very rarely going to complete a whole collection. I mean, I work out I've got about between 250 and 300 vintage carded figures, and that's just a drop in the ocean in terms of the number of vintage figures you've got out there, because you've got all the Palitoy, you've got all the Lily Lede, which are really hard to get in England. You've got the Harbert, you've got the Meccano figures, and all the Tri-logos as well, plus all the Kenner US cards. Okay, number 10, question 10 says, what resources do you use for information? Websites, price guides? Well, the best out there is Action Figure News, which is from Lee's Action Figure News, which is harder to get in the UK now. Brian's Toys, that's good for seeing if you're getting a bargain or not. Rebel Scum, the Star Wars Collectors Archive, books, there's loads of books. There's Kellerman, there's a couple of German price guides that you can get in the UK, they're pretty good. The prices are a bit out of date though, so I mean, that's the problem. So I mean, you just more or less, if you're in the hobby for quite a while, you just pick up a good head for knowledge, and whether the price is good or not, and whether it's worth bidding for on eBay or not. So, you know, I mean, just now I was bidding on a Stormtrooper, German Stormtrooper on Empire Strikes Back card. It was for £100, which was good, AFA graded 80, and I thought I was going to win it, and then in the last few seconds I got outbid. So what can you do? Number 11 says, what do you think of modern toys instead of the vintage? Well, I collected heavily the Power of the Force 2 and some of the episode 1s, a lot of the Saga Blue ones, because they were discounted heavily at Toys R Us in the UK. A few of the OTC, a lot of the TAC figures, the 30th anniversary, because they were being sold off at £2.99 at Woolworths in the UK, so I got quite a lot of them. Yeah, I like the modern figures. I mean, I collect as much as I can, and I've been recently picking up graded versions of modern figures because they're pretty cheap on eBay. So, you know, you're getting them at bargain prices. Everyone's focusing on the vintage stuff. Should collectors keep all their stuff in package or open them? Oh, well, I keep all my stuff on the pack card. I mean, I'll open some things now and again, but really very rarely, and that would be modern stuff. And usually I'll have a duplicate, sorry. So, I mean, I like the cards. I think the cards look amazing. I think, you know, the cards are part of the, I don't know, the whole ambiance. Well, ambiance is the wrong word, but you know what I mean. So, you know, and they're part of the history. So, there you go. Question 13 says, tell us about your YouTube channel. Well, my YouTube channel is MKM Film 2009, and I have about 600 videos, maybe slightly more, and they are about 80% Star Wars. The rest is short films, stuff like Stalin and Ho, parts 1 to 9, and if I go places, I'll take videos and stuff like that. So, you know, it's just not Star Wars, but I've got a lot of vintage. I edit on YouTube as well. That's why I've got so many videos. So if I've got a long video on YouTube, I'll just recut it again. And I've got quite what you'd call a reservoir of footage on YouTube, which I can just re-edit. And so I in the way I present my Star Wars stuff, I take quite long shots of the actual carded items and lots of photographs and mix them together just to really get quite, because I'm quite a visual person, so I think that's really how I present my stuff. And my videos can be quite long at times, and you know, so that's how I work. And you can see from the visuals on this video how I present my stuff. All this imagery here is stuff that's already been on YouTube. I've just re-edited it and added new subtitles and this dialogue as well, plus, you know, so you can see there the Chewbacca, that yak face there. So that I got this year as well. Finally I got a yak face, you know, not cheap as it says there. No, it wasn't cheap, but finally I got one of the hardest figures to get there. There's a THX Power of the Force card, and there's some of the other cards I've got. So next question, number 14, says, who shot first, Han or Greedo? Well, obviously Han did, and there's something rare, that Gamorrean guard. Okay, one more question that I wanted to ask you, what do you think about reproduction card backs? Well, I like them. I mean, you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting the beauty of the original cards plus new figures. So you're combining the best of both worlds, and that's why they've done so well with those cards. I've hardly got any of them, so I've been pretty slack there. But hopefully in a couple of years' time they'll be pretty available. Still be available on YouTube and eBay, sorry, and I'll be able to pick them up. Okay, so there I am about to say goodbye, and off I go into